Welcome to A Sex Worker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the answer to life, the universe, and everything is sex workers. I'm your host, Parker Westwood. You can find the show on Twitter at SexyGalaxyPod. You can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/SexyGalaxyPod. Please support the show in any way that you're able, and listening does indeed count, so thank you. So this week, we get to talk to Carta Monir. I was introduced to Carta by a mutual friend of ours. Shout out to Willa. And when I reached out, Carta gave it an enthusiastic response of like, yes, I would love to be on the podcast, and sent a zine for me to check out beforehand. And I just fell in love upon reading this zine. Carta is a trans woman content creator and cartoonist and zine-maker, pornographer, just multifaceted, incredibly talented human being. And I'm so excited to share this interview with you all. We talk a lot about the content platforms and writing and artwork and identity, and it's really rich, and there's lots of information for sex workers and non-sex workers alike. So I hope you all enjoy it, and let's just get to it, shall we? All right, everybody, I'm really excited to be here with Carta Monir. Carta, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Carta Monir. I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I usually say cartoonist, but I guess like in the context of this podcast, I should lead with I'm a pornographer.
Yeah.
I have an OnlyFans, and publisher, and let's say zine maker.
Excellent. And how, I feel like this is it's a complicated question for all of us, but how did you get started in sex work?
So something I had always been extremely drawn to. And I mean, part of that is being trans, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something I'd always been interested in. And when lockdown started, my spouse, who I had floated the idea of making an OnlyFans to a couple of times, and each time they had been like maybe less than enthusiastic about the idea. When
Mm-hmm.
lockdown started, my spouse said to me, I think the world needs it.
Oh.
It was very sweet. So with their blessing, I finally launched an OnlyFans and was very excited about it, because usually when I'm not in lockdown, like I'm very promiscuous and I hook up a lot, and like
Mm-hmm.
sex is a big part of my life. And when it looked like that wasn't going to be there for, the indefinite long term,
Yeah.
this outlet was like not a perfect substitute, but at least something, a way
Yeah.
for me to express my sexuality and also earn money,
Yeah.
which I do need.
Let us not forget the money.
Right. I don't want to sound completely altruistic. It makes me money, which is very good and important.
In this capitalist society we live in, we do need money.
We do.
Um, cool. I would like to talk to you more about your OnlyFans. But I also feel like I don't want to stray too far from the zine or your artistry. So I think I'm gonna just like dive into that first.
Sure.
I was just like, how am I supposed to dive into both of these areas of your life and not just miss them completely? And so this is my awkward way of doing that.
No, this is working.
Okay, great. I'm so happy for that. So did you I've read your zine. Everyone out there needs to read your zine. It's called Napkin. I'm sure there are more of them, but I've read the one called Napkin. And you have some like visual, you have some photos, you have some visual things. Um, did you identify as a writer or an artist first, and kind of how has that identity evolved for you?
Oh, interesting question. I guess I identified, or I would, introduce myself as a cartoonist, which
Mm-hmm.
is sort of necessarily like a mix of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I consider myself a writer first, I guess, because I think most of what I do boils down to writing. Like, if not for writing, I wouldn't have the majority of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not like an illustrator with a capital I. Like there are people who are really, really technically incredible at just drawing, and like
Yes.
I'm okay at drawing, but I don't feel like that's me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the weight I do is carried by my writing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I used to do a lot more comics, and I still do comics to some degree, but I would say that I fell more in love with traditional like zine making. There's like a big queer history of making zines that are a combination of photos and text and illustrations, especially adjacent to pornography. There's like a really interesting history. And so I really wanted to experiment with that kind of form more. So I've done a few things like that more recently. The most successful of which is Napkin.
Would you mind telling our listeners a bit about Napkin and maybe about your studio, just to give them an idea of the content and kind of yeah, what you do as a zine maker?
Yeah, I'll start with the studio, I guess. Currently, I rent a garage. It's like a 1.5 car garage, detached from a house that is owned by a very sweet man, in Ann Arbor. Um, the garage, I think, used to be someone's workshop. Um, it has a workbench. It has like a very dad feel. Like when we moved into it, there was like a
Yes.
toolbox and like a space heater, and like it just felt like, oh, like you need to get away from the wife. You go work in the workshop. Um, and we sort of moved in and renovated a little bit. Like we put down a rubber floor and stuff like that. And we have a
Mhm.
bunch of printing equipment. So we have a risograph machine, which is like it's about the size of an office copier. Um,
Cool.
we have an office copier, like a traditional black and white Xerox type machine.
Yes.
And then a whole bunch of other machines are like we have a big cutting machine, we have um, machines for binding books and like
Mhm.
high powered staplers and things like that. Lots of different colors of ink for printing. And then most recently, I was able to purchase some collating machines. That's where you take the individual pages of the book, which are all in, you have like a huge stack of paper and they're all page 13 or whatever, and you need to take them and sort of sort them into the correct order for the book.
Mhm.
These machines do that automatically, so it's a huge time save.
Oh, that's
And then I
amazing.
also got a booklet maker, which folds and staples the book itself. So I'm very excited about this stuff. It's like really a dream for me to have. I love machines, and so like it's a dream for me to have this workshop full of stuff. So Napkin, which is also called Thank You for Having Sex with Carta Monir,
Mhm.
was printed using the risograph. It is a collection of writing about sex, some pictures, some like screenshots of my Twitter or, sort of comparable ephemera.
Mhm.
And then the sort of like heart of the book is a collection of comment cards that I had sexual partners fill out immediately after we'd had sex. And those are really sort of the hook of the zine, but also the writing really, fleshes it out and expands on them was my concept with that.
I'd have to agree. It is the hook, but your writing certainly expands on what we see in these like photos of the or copies of the cards. I guess like how did the review card thing come about, and did you know it was going to end up in a zine when you started it?
So I did think that it was going to be a zine when I started. The review card thing happened because I thought it would be funny, I guess. Like I was hooking up with so many people, and this was a new thing. Like my spouse and I stopped being monogamous after 8 continuous years of monogamy.
Wow.
Um, and like that sounds dramatic, but it wasn't. It's like we're both trans and like we both came out after we got married and like it just felt like, yeah, like this seems like something we could try and like it's worked out really well for both of us. So, it was like an explosion of sexual activity all of a sudden. And I always like to write about the important things that are going on in my life. So I knew that I would want to write about the sex I was having, but I also wanted the people I was having sex with to have at least some voice. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want it to just be like me writing over and over, like, oh, I'm so good at sex, take my word for it.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted the other people to have input. And I also thought it would be funny, like there are those cards in restaurants or at hotels that are like, how are we doing? Like circle 1 to 5 or whatever.
Yes.
And I was like, I want to make one of those. So I designed these comment cards and printed out a whole bunch of them. And then I had this stack of them. And I started giving them to people after would hooked up. And I would tell them like this is going to end up in a zine. I don't know exactly what form it's going to take, but like this will be published. So, please don't sign it or whatever. A couple people did sign it and I had to blur out their names. But like, yeah, so people knew that I would be printing them. No one refused. If someone had, it wouldn't have been a big deal. I would have probably made a note of it, like, oh, so many, X people refused.
Yeah.
Um, but no, everyone was very, I think, entertained by the idea. Originally, my concept for a napkin was that it would just be the comment cards, like just sort of a bound collection, like almost like recipe cards.
Oh yeah.
But the more I collected them, the more I was like, well, I want to write about this too. Like, I want to talk about these experiences I'm having, and I want to talk about like, faking an orgasm with a beautiful woman, and just like these things that I will think of every time I see these cards that I want to share.
I'm so glad you did because it really rounds out the experience for the reader. Like I get a better understanding of what was happening, like what happened prior to this person filling out the card.
Mhm.
And yeah, it really gives me more, or like me as a reader, more of an experience of what both you and your partner were experiencing, which is pretty cool.
That makes me happy. Yeah, I when I was laying it out at the end and I experimented with the idea of, well, what if it was just cards? It felt like, I don't know, like I didn't want it to be bragging without the cards, like, oh, I'm good at sex, take my word for it. And just presenting a bunch of cards also felt like very shallow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at this like tally of people I've fucked. And I didn't want it to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the writing really, really helps create like a more interesting work of art.
Yeah, I agree. There's also you talk a lot not just about your sexual experiences, but like your internal experiences with um like body dysmorphia and
Mhm.
dissociation, um and your journey with a genetic illness and like getting on HRT. Like
Mhm.
it's juicy. It's a lot of stuff in there. um it's impressive. But I was wondering if you'd be willing to talk a little bit more about how your relationship with your body and sex has changed since starting hormones?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say like I have finally been able to not hate my body, if that
Hey
makes
yo,
sense.
yes.
Like, yeah, when I would have sex, even good sex before I came out or before I had done anything to, transition,
Hmm.
um, I would get tripped up by how much I didn't want to be in the body that I was inhabiting.
Hmm.
Um, like I would be excited about my partner, I would be excited about the fact that I was having sex with someone I was attracted to, but my own body would be like it's like when you're watching porn and like one of the people, like the person who you're least attracted to is like extremely unattractive to you, you know.
Yes.
It was like that, except me. I was like,
Hmm.
no one wants to see this, this hairy guy, like I want to
Mm.
see a beautiful woman or, like if nothing else, a hairless twink. And like I was not
Yeah.
that. So I would say that since getting on HRT, since learning to change my body, even in impermanent ways that make me happy, like learning more effective ways of shaving or getting laser hair removal or anything like that. I've felt so much more ownership and control over my body instead of being something that is like an unchanging humiliation that I have to learn to live with.
Mm.
It's something that I can be proud of because I've put work into it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is my body, and like people are attracted to my body because of the things I've done and not like despite how much I don't like it.
That makes so much sense.
It's helped me feel really much more embodied. And like it also just helps me believe my partner when they say that they're attracted to me because before I would be like, well, that's impossible. And with the benefit of hindsight, like I wasn't ugly, but I felt ugly, like it
Yeah.
was just like it was wrong for me. So yeah, at this point I'm much more able, like everyone, I have my off days where I don't feel so sexy or whatever.
Hmm.
But it feels different when I don't feel so sexy in the moment, but I know like even when I'm not at my sexiest, I'm still like a woman, a
Yeah.
woman who has value and who is attractive to so many people in the way that I want to be.
Absolutely. And the way you describe so much of your journey in the zine is fantastic. So I'm just telling all of my listeners, go get the zine and read it. There'll be a link in the show notes. But speaking of you being an incredibly attractive woman who many people are attracted to, let's talk about your OnlyFans. How was that for a transition?
That was really good.
Thank
That was
you.
excellent. Good
I'm working
segue.
working on it. So since you started your OnlyFans and you got your partner's blessing,
hmm
what are some important lessons you've learned about being an online content creator?
I mean, I guess before I had OnlyFans, I had and still have like a Patreon for my non-sex work, art and writing. And I had already had to learn how to promote myself for, just like the book stuff and comic stuff I was doing. So I had a little bit of a head start because I came to OnlyFans with like a built-in audience who already liked some of what I had to offer.
Hmm.
So I was lucky in that I did not have to start completely from zero. Like I was able to make like a new Twitter account and direct, my 10,000 or so Twitter followers and say like, if you're interested in my pornography, I have this. So I was able to build up at least a couple thousand followers like right away,
Cool.
which was very useful.
Yeah.
um, in terms of like making porn online, I would say like the stuff I learned immediately was like, it really helps me if I post every day. Um, even if I just have stuff queued up. I know
Mm-hmm.
some people who post multiple times a day, and I think that's amazing for them, and that's also not my style.
Mm-mm.
So I post something once a day, and that something can be like a few pictures, it could be like a recording of me reading something I've written, or a short video, or sometimes a big long video. But regardless, it's like I have it set up where I will be posting every day. And that's useful too, because like I think a lot of consumers, especially people who are less familiar with a subscription-based model like OnlyFans,
Mm-hmm.
get very in their head about like, well, how much content am I paying for? So
Mm-hmm.
being able to say like, okay, like I post every day. And so that means I have, hundreds of videos and thousands of photos already, you know,
Yeah.
that's helpful for the people who, I would say, like for more experienced buyers, they understand that there is a huge quantity over quality um,
Mm-hmm.
problem because you could post one picture every day or the same picture every day,
Oh yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I think it helps draw people in, just like knowing that there's something. I also try and post on Twitter or retweet something at least once a day. I don't always do it, but it helps like draw in new potential customers.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, I really hate this website, but I do post on Reddit
Mm-hmm.
occasionally.
Yep.
It
we
definitely gets me, people. It's
Yep.
hateful and humiliating and just the worst. Like, if you've never had to post pornography on Reddit in the hopes of getting paid, let me tell you, because Reddit is set up um, to be user managed communities,
Mm-hmm.
it means that whoever is managing this community of people who post porn, so it could be anybody, it's just someone who likes porn. It's like never a sex worker. It's
Mm-mm.
always some guy who likes tit pics or whatever.
Yes.
And since that person is just the person who like started this community or whatever, they get to set all of the rules, and frequently the rules are extremely unfriendly to sex workers.
Mm-hmm.
Reddit advertises porn that is given by people who expect no compensation. And what that generally means is stolen porn. But even in the case of not stolen, like one of the most popular subreddits is called Gone Wild. It has over 3 million subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
And I got banned from Gone Wild because my bio on Reddit has a .com link in it. They are so against the idea that anyone posting their needs there could ever benefit financially that they'll ban you even for having a website link in your bio, which is unrelated to what you post.
That's such bullshit.
It's terrible. So yeah, Reddit sucks. And also Reddit makes it really difficult not to interact with just like the worst people. Like on Twitter, you can block them.
Mm-hmm.
On Reddit, you have to play by their rules and interact with them.
Mm.
And yeah, it sucks. And also like as a trans performer, a lot of the Reddits that I post in have especially humiliating rules about needing to be passable,
Yeah.
things like that,
Mm.
which I hate as a matter of principle. Like it
Yeah.
disgusts me. And also, I really want to take those nerds' money.
Yeah. It's also like the whole passable thing is so subjective and offensive. Like,
Oh, it's terrible.
oh,
Yeah,
it's
I
awful.
mean, it's garbage. And like what it ends up meaning is like, if you look at any of those, like r slash traps is like the top like trans feminine subreddit to post in if you make porn. And
Mm-hmm.
like if you look at like what's trending there on any given day, it's like a white skinny girl. It always is.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's what is prioritized. by rules about passability, and like
Oh
it's
yeah.
very frustrating.
It's still it's all hinged on the same exact beauty standards that like everyone else is
Yeah.
held to, and they're still unattainable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's a good segue into one of the questions I have here is as a transgender content creator, how do you navigate this like tagging of content when there are some of these like tags that are outdated or offensive, or like
Sure.
how do you navigate that?
So while I will post in a subreddit called r/traps,
Hmm.
I personally don't feel comfortable posting in, anything with the word she-male or tranny, or
Hmm.
I also don't post in femboy, not because I don't think femboy uh, is like more offensive or whatever. I just feel like it's inaccurate
Yeah.
in my case.
Yeah.
When it comes to tagging my own content, I do use clip sites like ManyVids or AP Clips or whatever.
Hmm.
I never use slurs in my content just because like I don't want to encourage anyone to use them for me. I
Hmm.
also work with and film content with other trans people, and I would get really angry if somebody called one of my co-stars a tranny,
Right.
or whatever. And I I don't know, like I know that I'm gonna have an audience of chasers inevitably, but like I would like to sort of do my due diligence in avoiding the people who feel empowered to use the worst slurs.
Yes.
It's part of why I also don't advertise along racial lines. Like,
Hmm.
I am uh, not white, but I also don't want an audience of people who feel empowered to say disgusting, racist things.
Yeah.
So I sort of let them figure that out themselves.
Yeah. It's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess how would you or how do you approach like when if someone were to approach you using like TS or that sort of vernacular, and they're like,
sure.
because I've seen it where these guys just like don't know. They haven't
Right,
had
right,
a like this is what's correct today. Like that was fine when
right,
you were 20, but it's not anymore.
right.
How do you
Um,
handle that situation?
so it's context dependent. If they're
Hmm.
paying me, if it's on OnlyFans and they DM me and they say, "You are a beautiful transgender," or something like that, I will say, "Thank you. I prefer, like it's important that you call me a trans woman and not a transgender because a lot of people don't like that.
Hmm.
Especially when I get a lot of people DMing me and asking, like, how can I find a beautiful trans in my area to hook
Mm,
up with?" And I'm like, well, I mean, step one would be don't call her a beautiful trans.
right.
Um, if it's on Twitter, I generally don't respond to any reply except for from mutuals or from people who have given me substantial amounts of money.
Yes. It's a
Um,
good rule to follow.
yeah.
Hmm.
And then same on Reddit. Like, people will say all kinds of things on Reddit. And generally the only things that I reply to are innocuous comments like, "I wish I could join you." And then
Hmm.
once in a while I'll respond like, "Yes." Um, or comments with a direct question from another trans person about my piercings or the hormones that I'm on.
Yes,
um, I get a lot of, "What is that kind of piercing called?" And then that's like such an inoffensive question I'm happy to answer.
absolutely.
Um, and I don't feel that I need to be paid for my answer.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, for most other stuff, if people want to talk to me and be engaged with, they should subscribe to my OnlyFans because there it's like I'm happy to respond to DMs, like I
Hmm.
I don't mind at all. I'm happy to respond to whatever they want to say. They're paying me to do that. That's part of the setup there. But yeah, otherwise I just don't engage really.
Yeah.
And I'll block if something is so disgusting to me that
Oh yeah.
I just like don't want to engage with it at all.
Yeah, where it's like blatant that they just aren't concerned with what's offensive or not. Like it's pretty obvious
Right.
from some people. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Like I really don't mind. I should be careful how I phrase this. In this context,
Mm-hmm.
where I am not face to face with them and they are approaching me over the internet and also paying me money, I don't mind earnest mistakes.
Right.
Um, I do mind earnest mistakes if it's in person. Please don't approach me and ask me how to find a beautiful transgender. Um,
Right.
but online, I'll talk to them about whatever,
Mm.
as long as they're paying. And I feel like that's just part of it. Like a lot of the people who subscribe to my OnlyFans want to have conversations that are unrelated to sex, and like
Mm-hmm.
that's that's part of it, and I don't have any problem with that.
Same. I actually really love that.
Mhm.
Yeah. It makes me feel valued as a person and not just for my
Yeah,
body. Although like both of our
absolutely.
bodies are incredible, so that's cool too.
I
But
agree. Thank you.
so you mentioned other content platforms.
Mhm.
Can we just talk a minute about like what you think about the other platforms, how they differ? Just kind of give
Yeah,
an overview for people who may not really know anything about these platforms.
yeah, absolutely. So starting with OnlyFans, OnlyFans is, if you've never used it, it is a subscription-based platform similar to Patreon, where your fans, I guess, let's say, your fans will pay a set fee per month. You don't have tiered pricing. There's like one fee gets them into all of your content unless you have it specifically locked, with an added fee on top of that.
Hmm.
And the thing about OnlyFans that makes it extremely popular is that they only take 20%. And it's a flat 20% across the board. Your subscription fees, your tips, if you have like messages that people have to pay to unlock, if you have videos that people have to pay to unlock, 20% all the way across. And if you know anything about online like sex platforms, you know that 20% is relatively very low. Um,
Hmm.
ManyVids, which is the most popular indie clip site that I use, takes 40%. In some cases, they take less. Like they have sort of an OnlyFans competitor thing that they
Mm,
launched, that I don't think very many people are using. That was also 20%. But if you sell a clip on ManyVids, which is what people use it for,
yeah.
they take 40%. AP Clips takes, I think, 35%.
Mm.
Um, and then camming sites like Chatterbait can take up to 50%.
That's so bananas to me. It's just I thought 20% was a huge cut. And
I
until I
still think it's a
learned
huge
it
cut.
is, yeah,
Yeah,
especially because they're not update they just like don't do anything to make it easier for us to make them more money. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. OnlyFans is not a well-designed or well-maintained website. And
Hmm.
it's like it became extremely popular. And so now there's a base of users there, so people keep using it. Like I've tried using other websites that have better designs, but if you don't have users who are going to pay, tokens or money or whatever, then it's pointless.
Yeah.
I made an AVN Stars, for example.
Hmm.
Um, I have sold one video clip on that
Oh wow.
in like months and months. And it's like, same with like, I tried out several other alternative websites, and like OnlyFans has the name recognition in the base.
Yeah.
From a user perspective, I can't blame people for not wanting to not give their credit card information to yet another subscription platform.
Yeah, and then on our end, having to upload to so many different subscription platforms. It's
Right. I
like,
was doing that for a while. Like I made accounts on like Just for Fans and AVN Stars and this website called Foxy that I really liked. I really liked the design of Foxy, but nobody uses it. I got like 20 people to use my referral code to sign up to Foxy, and I have made $0 because none of them have made any money on Foxy. Like it's an interesting way for me to see if anybody's
uh,
succeeding at Foxy. The answer is no.
damn. I mean, the name is cute.
Yeah, the name is cute. It like honestly, I wish Foxy succeeded because they were an OnlyFans type site, but they also sold clips and they still took only 20% across the board. So like as a clip host, they are such a better deal than ManyVids or AP clips, but nobody uses them. Even when I put my clips on Foxy on sale, like this is the cheapest you could get them anywhere, please buy them. Nobody
Nobody's there.
bought them, right? People would rather buy them on the platform they're already a part of.
Yeah.
Um, which makes sense. I understand why, but like, OnlyFans sucks so bad.
I know. I just wish we could like start a petition to get them to do a few of the things they need to do to make it a better platform for us since we're all making them so much money.
You're making them so much
I
money.
know.
Yeah. I mean, like, OnlyFans, you can see, like, if you look at their Twitter account and the pages that they promote, they really want, like, if they could wave a wand and make something happen, they want to be like paid YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they want. Like the people who they promote are like windsurfers and chefs and comedians and pranksters and
Yes.
influencers. Nobody who sells nudes.
Yes.
Um, and usually the pages they promote, if you like click through, it's like someone who's uploaded 2 posts and has 5 followers, but they're
Yeah.
still being promoted by OnlyFans because they are one of the few people who's not a sex worker
Yeah.
using the site.
Yeah. They're like, when we say behind the scenes content, we don't mean your tits. We mean a
Right.
makeup tutorial. Yeah. And it's like, that's not what is happening though.
It's not. And like, I honestly don't know why someone would want to use OnlyFans not for porn because Patreon doesn't take 20%.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to.
Yeah. And it's tiered. Like the Patreon model is far better designed for what they're trying, well, it seems like they're trying to do.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, OnlyFans is designed for selling porn
Yeah.
very clearly. But it's so embarrassed of it. And I mean, I assume that anyone listening to this podcast understands these things, but I'm going to give a quick summary just in case.
Hmm.
In case you're asking yourself, why don't online sex workers make their own websites? Um, Good question.
Do
Here's
tell.
why. Um, you may have heard of something called Sesta Fosta, which
Mhm.
is sort of like a broad series of laws that were passed in the United States. Um, God, how many years ago now? Was it?
I think it was
Oh,
3 years ago now,
yeah,
April of 2018.
yeah, 3 years ago now. And they were ostensibly passed to combat human trafficking. Uh, but the impact is that credit card providers no longer wanted to accept payments for any kind of online sex or pornography or anything because they all of a sudden would be legally liable
Hmm.
if something related potentially to trafficking slipped through.
Yeah, and not just
Um,
credit card processors, but also um like sites, websites. Anyone,
right,
yeah.
yes,
Hmm.
right, yeah. Um, so that immediately meant that in order to sell pornography online, you would have to go through what are called high risk payment processors. Those are payment processors that are used when you sell firearms or like online gambling or vapes, and now also porn. And
Wow.
high risk payment processors are not accessible to like a person. They're made for companies to interact with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have high fees and they're difficult to set up and expensive to get started.
Mm-hmm.
And so that created this kind of like middleman market of sites like OnlyFans who generously only take 20% because they have assumed the sort of headache and risk of platforming pornography and accepting payments for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's the same with sites like ManyVids and, you know, Chatterbait, et cetera, et cetera. It's not to say that those sites didn't exist before Sesta Fosta, but Sesta Fosta was like the final nail in the coffin as to why you can't use PayPal, you know, like, oh, buy my nudes and pay me on PayPal. Because if PayPal finds out, they will seize all your money and shut you down.
And they have, and they do that.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
they do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's why we use sites like OnlyFans, despite them taking 20%. It's because there are really not better options currently.
Yeah. Not to mention, starting your own website is expensive, and that's probably why OnlyFans is like they only promote non-sex work sites
Right.
because or people, content creators, because they fear losing their entire site if they promote sex
Absolutely.
workers.
Right. And they also have like pretty arbitrary rules, which is common also where people are kind of trying to hedge their bets in hosting pornography.
Yes.
Um, like you can't show menstrual blood, you can't show fisting,
No
et
knife
cetera, et
play.
cetera.
None of
No
that.
knife play.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is that OnlyFans corporate is based in England, which has its own extremely weird
Oh
rules around
yeah.
pornography. But part of that is also just straightforwardly Sesta Fasta. Like
Mm-hmm.
American websites have the same thing. Like you can show someone drinking cum, no problem. Can't show someone drinking female ejaculate, quote unquote.
Oh my
Um,
god.
right? Like,
What's yeah, we that could be a whole episode in and of itself. How stupid that shit is. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's absurd. Um,
And sexist.
yeah, extremely. Yeah, so that and as I said, I'm sure most people listening to this podcast already know this, so sorry for the redundant info. But like that's why we use sites like OnlyFans. And it's also just the question of audience, you know, like we were saying, there are better designed sites. Every once in a while someone will be like, I'm launching my own OnlyFans competitor. It's amazing. And everyone will get briefly excited about it and then discover nobody is paying to be on it. Nobody is using it. Like
It doesn't have that name recognition.
it doesn't. Beyonce hasn't sung about pocket stars or whatever,
Yeah. Come on,
but you
Beyonce, get
know,
a Foxy song out there. Come on. We're here for it. I don't know. I think getting like the techno the wow, I can't use words today. I know I have them. The technological side of it, like the website being frustrating and everything is a whole thing. I have when I first started, I like hated OnlyFans. Confession time. I hated it. I was like, I don't like creating this content. I don't feel a connection with anyone because I was doing
mhm,
solo and I still do a lot of solo content. And I was just super frustrated because I was just like longing for connection. And then I
mhm,
started to kind of find my groove with it and do things that felt sustainable. And you seem to like it, I mean, your OnlyFans, you had done some porn content, like creating with folks,
mhm.
and some solo content. And I was just wondering, like, what's been your favorite content to create? And like, do you have a favorite scene that you've done as a
Oh,
content creator?
I would say easily my favorite is when other people are involved. And like Earlier, I did mention that I started my OnlyFans after the lockdown had started. So you may be wondering, how does this work, Carta? Um, Earlier in the pandemic, I live in an area where like same day rapid testing was extremely available.
Mhm.
And before things had gotten too bad, it was like something that I felt comfortable doing where like I would set up shooting with people who had been quarantining. We would both get tested, sometimes multiple times, and then meet up and then get tested again, etc. That stopped being viable. So I haven't done any in-person content with anybody in a while.
Yeah.
Um, but I definitely prefer, shooting with other people because it's more interesting for me,
Hmm.
like at this point, most of my content is solo content and I'm finding ways to mix it up. But like it doesn't feel as interesting to me because there's only so many ways I can touch myself, like
Yes.
so I'm definitely more interested in like the dynamics of being with other people. As far as my favorite stuff that I've shot goes, um, hmm, I have to remember to say because I'm on a podcast and people can't see my thinking face. I would say one of the things that I shot that I felt like most proud of, just like on an execution and sort of conceptual level, there was this couple that I've filmed with a bunch who are engaged, and the I guess I can't call him the husband because they're just engaged, but the boyfriend,
Hmm.
um, the fiance with one E, had never had any kind of sexual interaction with anyone with a dick before.
Wow.
So I got to film him going down on me and like giving his first blowjob ever.
Oh my God.
Um, and I also got to film a bunch of like pretty fun, like sort of light cuckold content with him and his GF, and it was really fun. Like I really enjoyed that kind of dynamic, and like although I'm not terribly interested in cis men, like
Mhm.
it was very fun, like to see him being vulnerable in that way.
Yeah.
As far as other content that like I really like, I've shot a bunch with this trans guy named Sterling,
Mm.
who is just one of my favorite performers and people. Like we're friends outside of filming, and I feel like everything we shoot together is just extremely hot, and like I have a good dynamic with him, like off camera as well, and like
Awesome.
I just feel really good about those scenes too. And they're also like just very consistently ones that I can like show clips of and get people very excited about them. So,
Oh, that's so great. I can't wait till we can go back to being able to make in-person content or like
oh
interact
my
with
God,
people or just fuck
me
in general.
too. This is like the longest dry spell in my adult life. It's so
It's for a
frustrating.
good cause. It's for a good reason. I get it.
It's for a very good
It's hard.
reason. Like I'm not gonna, yeah, I live with people and it's not worth the risk of any of it. Like
Yes.
I would never ever want to bring COVID home to my spouse or my roommate. But it's so hurtful that I just got started on my big sled adventure and then I had to shut it down for over a year.
Tell me
Probably more
about
like two
it.
years before this is all over.
Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like I'm just coming into my big sled adventure and like as COVID was like really setting in and I was just like, God damn it. Like
Yeah,
I can't ethically go on my big sled adventure. So we're gonna postpone it for
we're gonna
yet
have to
another
set up
year.
like a really good orgy in this area after COVID is done.
You know I'm down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm there. Well, oh, one of the questions, this was the question I threw on this list at the end because I was like, I don't think people understand how much work OnlyFans really can be. Um,
Hmm.
how many hours would you say you put into creating content and like posting and like all of the OnlyFans work? Like how many hours a week?
It depends on what kind of content I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
There are admittedly some weeks where I shoot everything in one night and then I sort of like space it out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but especially if I'm filming any video, because that always takes like a long time to set up, and then,
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's at least 40, and
Yeah.
it's a weird 40 where it like happens after everyone else in my house has gone to sleep, because that's when I can have the living room to myself as a studio.
Yep.
So it's like a very weird after hours kind of like shuffling around lighting and shuffling around equipment, and then shooting, then editing video, then uploading, and then also like just responding to comments, responding to messages. Like it definitely takes time, maintaining the Twitter presence and everything.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely busier when I'm shooting with other people because there's just more to do than
Mm-hmm.
there is when I'm taking pictures of myself. But yeah, it's still pretty time intensive. I will say though, like of jobs I've had, this is my favorite. Like,
Mm,
um, I've worked hourly in so many different jobs, and I also, run my print shop and stuff, which I do love. I love my print shop, but the print shop loses money. It doesn't make money.
yeah.
Um, so like of jobs I have had that make money, OnlyFans is like just the best that I've ever had. And I know that like not everyone can say that, and I'm very lucky. But yeah, personally, I'm very happy with this job.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. You're very good at it. So
Thank you.
that's so fun. Yeah, it's a joy to follow you. I'm glad we've traded links.
Me too.
Okay, so this is the moment where we go into rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Vanilla or chocolate?
Vanilla,
Pancakes or waffles?
waffles.
And this one's specific to you. Screen printing or lithography?
Oh shit. Um, I've never done lithography, so I would have to say lithography because I would want to mess around with that.
Hell yeah. I thought you might say that. Favorite place you've ever been?
Oh geez. I love LA. I might have to say LA.
Hell yeah. A book from your mandatory reading list.
Oh, Susceptible by Genevieve Kestre.
Oh, what's that about?
It's a graphic novel. It's about
Mm,
it's autobiographical. It's really, really beautiful, about her growing up and then breaking away from her emotionally abusive mother. It's
ugh.
really stunning.
As a graphic novel, that sounds amazing.
And I mean, her art is just like some of the greatest art ever made. She's so incredible.
It's time to go to Vault of Midnight for me. I'm gonna go check that
Absolutely.
out. What is a secret talent of yours?
Um, I don't have a lot of secrets when it comes to things like that, but something people might not know is that I used to ride unicycle. I don't anymore because it's not safe for me with my joints, but I used to.
Do you still have it?
I don't. I sold it.
Damn it. I was like, I will buy that from you. That's
Yeah, when
awesome.
I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos and the doctor was like, "You're not allowed to run anymore. You're not allowed to like,
Ugh.
I was like, well, I might as well sell this because like there's no way.
Yeah, like surviving a biffing it on a unicycle is
Yeah,
yeah, it's quite an impact.
it is.
That's so cool. Okay, a song, a musical artist, or an album that you're currently obsessed with.
Oh, I've been listening a lot. So I'll answer like a sophisticated answer and a guilty pleasure answer.
Yes, this is all I want.
Um, On the sophisticated side, I've been listening to a lot of Ice Choir because my spouse really loves Ice Choir.
Mm,
It's like a synth pop like group that's
cool.
really, really amazing. I love the song Amorous in Your Absence.
Mm.
Um, on a guilty pleasure side, I've been listening to a lot of Green Day's American Idiot. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, I might have to revisit that. Okay, finish this sentence. Good sex is.
fun.
Hmm. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Oh God. Um, I should say, Once again, you can't see my thinking face. Geez, I don't know. It's hard to say. A very trans answer would be like shape shifting or like control over my body.
It's a good one.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, I like that one. And what is something simple that brings you joy?
I really love drinking Lapsang Souchong tea. It's my
Mm,
favorite tea, and I drink it every day.
mm. Do you have a special like tea bowl or cup that you prefer to drink out of?
I don't. I'm drinking some Lapsang right now. And it's in
Yeah.
this mug that a person I'm dating got my spouse for their birthday, which is really sweet.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah, it's like a New York coffee, like we are happy to serve you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lapsang is like super smoky. It's tea that's smoked over pine. So it's like it has
Oh,
like a campfire aroma that I really love.
that sounds dreamy. Now I want to go camping.
It's excellent.
I'm gonna have to get myself
So many
some. I
things.
know. Soon enough, we're in the home stretch. We're gonna make it.
Unpaid advertisement time. Tea House, spelled Teahaus in Ann Arbor, sells my favorite lapsang.
Hey yo, perfect. I haven't been there yet. I have
Hmm.
to go there.
I love it. Um, yeah, when it's not a pandemic, let's go there together. It's super nice.
I'd love that. Yes, please. Fucking pandemic.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to meet in person soon. Whenever we're able, because this has been great.
Me too. For me too. I'm really, really enjoying getting to know you.
Well, let's do a cute little sign off.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm super excited to meet you whenever the stars align, and excited to see the work that you continue to come out with. And everyone should buy your zine and subscribe to your OnlyFans and all of the things. Do you have any parting words for
Thank
our
you.
listeners?
Oh boy. Thank you. Um, I don't know if I have any really good. Okay, here. I'll end with a recommendation. Um, I have been reading to my spouse every evening from a book published in 1680, which is available on the Internet Archive. You can, just download it.
Mhm.
Um, it is a like sex manual. Um, it's called what is it? In French, it's called Le Châle des Filles, which is like the school of girls. Yeah, in English, it's called The School of Venus or
Mm.
The Lady's Delight. And it is written in the form of a dialogue between two cousins, two female cousins, one of whom is like schooled in the ways of pleasure, and the other who is a naive and innocent virgin.
I
Um,
love this.
and it is really, really interesting. Like it's this extremely thorough sex manual that like does not even suggest the existence of oral or anal sex, which I find interesting. I mean, like it gives you a peek
Wow.
into like some cultural expectations, I guess, or maybe baths weren't available enough for people to even consider it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's extremely interesting to read about like what is the kind of like, oh, this is like the sort of ideal sexual encounter in 1680.
Oh, that's exciting. I also love reading out loud so much. Like that sounds wonderful.
It's great. I highly recommend it
I'm excited to
anytime.
read it. And I'll see you soon. We'll say goodbye to everybody and yeah, so goodbye everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Ugh, what a magical human being. I just really appreciate it when people can show up and be vulnerable and have fun with it. And I really enjoyed this interview. Be sure to check out that zine. It is really beautiful. I enjoyed every moment of reading it. I got sucked in, and reading has been hard for me lately because my attention span has been so short with social media being such a thing right now. I know there's plenty of you out there that can relate. So, getting sucked into something that is like text is saying something right now. So that's linked in the show notes, as well as Carta's OnlyFans, as well as the show Patreon. So get in there and do your thing. And thank you for listening. And I'll see you in another couple weeks. This is where I say something spacey, and I'm never prepared every week. So it's a little known fact of the universe that while there are flying saucers, there are also flying teacups. Just wait till you see the flying teaspoons. Nanu nanu motherfuckers.